Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America online, thisweekinamerica.us. Thank you for listening to the program today. Anyone who undergoes some difficult events or painful experiences will find himself trying to juggle and accept the challenging situation and the strong, overpowering emotions that they bring. Most often, the person may not be able to remove himself from the sticky and agonizing circumstances and will get drowned by the overflowing emotions around him and within himself. For author Mickey Craig, he was able to face and overcome the trauma, gradually healed, and finally able to help others through his story of grace in his book, Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. Michael Ray Craig, who went by Mickey as a child, born in 1957 in Salamanca, New York, the eldest of 4 children. His father converted to Christianity when he was 5 years old. This resulted in his family moving quite often to several locations across the country when he was between the ages of 5 and 18. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education, an Advanced Studies program degree, which was at the time the master's degree at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. He obtained a certification as an alcohol and drug counselor in mental health at St. Francis College in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Mickey Craig, author of Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace, is with us on today's This Week in America. Mickey, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us on the show today to share your story and I'm sure help other people. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Rick. It's good to be with you today.
Looking forward to this. And you talk in the book about the role of family in helping you. I want to start by talking about the book cover, which really jumps out at you. It's an excellent book cover. And I understand that you spent like a whole lot of money having this done by your 11-year-old granddaughter who had this vision for the book cover. I love it. This is an excellent cover.
It's an amazing story. I've been working on the book for 2 years with my co-author, Diane Teaton, and she did the editing. And my wife and I were coming back home, and my granddaughter, Tabby, was in the back seat, and I had never talked to her about the book. It was in progress, and Tabby says, "Papa, do you believe in visions?" I said, "Well, yeah, hon." And she says, "I have a vision." "Well, you do?" She's in the back seat. My wife and I are looking at each other as we're driving to our house, and I said, "What's your vision, love?" She says, "You know about your book?" "Well, yeah. It's called Breaking Away, isn't it?" I says, "Well, yes, it is, love." She says, "Well, my vision is that there's a sunset, and the sun is slowly coming down, and there's a tree, and I call it the tree of life." I said, "You do?" And she says, "Yeah, Papa. Under the tree, there's a silhouette of you." She's 11. She just turned 12 2 weeks ago, and I'm thinking she knows the word silhouette. It's amazing. And she says, "The sun is casting a shadow on your silhouette, and it's breaking away from you." And I'm in tears. My wife's got goosebumps, and I'm going,
"Oh, yeah, what a moment."
That is wonderful. So we came home. She drew a picture of it, and then eventually I sat down with her, and I painted that vision. I have a little artistic flavor in me, and I sent it to the publisher in a painted canvas, and I thought they would use, their own illustrator much better than I. And when I got the book, there was Tabby's vision that I had painted, and I remember getting the book for the first time, and Tabby was here with my daughter, who's a doctor in California. She was here for the holidays, and the book came, and I've got a picture of her and I that my daughter took, and tears were streaming down my eyes.
I was going to say, I'm
exactly
sure there were tears. What a great family moment. Mickey Craig, our guest on the program. You can see the book cover, get information on the book, and order the book by going to authormickeycraig.com. You can link on directly at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Go and get information on the book. Let's go back where it all began for you. Let's talk about the early days. Born on the Indian reservation, life sort of changed for you when your father became a minister. You talk about that time when you traveled all across the country and talk about being a son of the preacher. And I believe that's where a lot of this what began for you when you felt these expectations, very lofty expectations, by being the son of the local preacher.
Yes, my father His father left to the war, divorced my father's mother. My dad was the oldest of three kids. He had two sisters, so when my father was 7, they lived on a grape farm in upstate New York, right off Lake Erie. And my father never had a father. And a lot of alcoholism in my family's past history. And my father didn't talk about his history. I think he was ashamed of it. I knew I was born on the reservation. I remember a little bit about it. At 5, when he converted to Christianity, he moved us immediately to Columbia, South Carolina, where he got his Bible college degree. And in 1967, we moved back to New York until he got his first church in western Nebraska, out in the middle of cattle and canyons and cactus, and he was there for a couple of years. Then from there to Dannebrog and central Nebraska, and that was 5 or 6 years. And then when I was going to be 18, he moved us to the suburbs of Chicago. And the expectations, I didn't want to be a preacher's kid. I was this kid who moved around in small cowboy towns in Nebraska, and my father's expectations were, you need to be the man of the family. At 10 years old, you need to clean the church. You need to do what you're told. You need to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. This is the way the church believes, and that's the way you will believe. I know I wanted in junior high to do nothing more than to someday own a home farm of myself, and I wanted to get into agriculture and auto mechanics. And my dad insisted, no, you're going to Bible school someday, so you're going to go into business. So I was given a lot of mandates and expectations for a long time.
With us on the program is Mickey R. Craig. He's author of the book, Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. His website is authormickeykraig.com. That's CRAIG.com. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You talk in the book about your love in Nebraska. You're out in the country. You're enjoying that lifestyle. You're ready for your senior year. And your dad pulls you out of school, and he's moving to a suburb of Chicago. That was a very difficult time. That was one of the many traumas that you suffered during that period, wasn't it?
I hated it. My dad and I had a big verbal fight about it. It was my mother who I was very close to that convinced me to go. And so here I am, a cowboy with cowboy boots and cowboy shirt, and I chewed tobacco, so I had a can of chew in my pocket, and it's just the cowboy way. And there I go to this, suburb where, this is 1974, so you remember, many of the listeners remember what 74 was like, and the long hair, and
yes,
and the types of drugs that were used, and I just, it was a very difficult move for me.
Mickey R. Craig, our guest on the program. The book is Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. You talk about from childhood to middle adulthood, basically. You overcome with negative thoughts. I'm not worthy. I am bad. Talk about that, and then we'll talk about some of the experiences, the traumas that you went through, the abuses that you went through during that period, and then we'll talk about the moment life sort of changed for you.
There's a difference between religion and spirituality. I believe that with all my heart.
Yes.
And I never hated my father. I always wanted his approval, but I felt I could never measure up. Mandates is an official order to do something that's directed from a person who has authority, and my father was the head authority. And so I was given a lot of mandates. This is how you believe. No, you didn't drink, you didn't cuss, you didn't smoke, you couldn't dance. I remember my 6th grade year at my dad's second church, the school was having a dance. It was actually square dancing. And because my father had a list of do's and don'ts and what is sin and what is not sin, I, being brand new, was not allowed to even square dance because it was considered a form of sin. And so those religious mandates of do's and don'ts affected me internally, where I felt like I had a split personality at times. You know, this is how I should act in church, but yet when I'm with my friends, you know, I wanted to be me, and
Exactly.
you know, I didn't believe in all those do's and don'ts and all those sins, but that were considered, the behaviors that were considered sin. But according to my father back in those days, you know, you are the son, you are my eldest son. This is what I expect of you, and you will do it.
In the book Breaking Away, you talk about several traumatic events, and they occurred. They almost came in waves at you. You explained that they were sort of layered, and some of the abuses, religious, sexual, physical, emotional. You were tried to be a people pleaser because of the role of your father.
Yes.
All of this changed dramatically in what you call your God Shot Day in February 28th of 1991, also your birthday. And I'm going to preface this by saying you really pulled away from the church for a while, and you were angered at God, weren't you? I guess you would almost have to be in that position going through what you did growing up as a child and the dictates of your father. But you pulled away from the church, but things changed for you back in 1991. Talk about that moment and how that changed your life.
I was in the church. I worked as a pastor in a small trailer, actually, for a year, but it wasn't working out. And in 1991, my birthday, I had a lot of sleepless nights, and I remember looking up in the heavens and saying, God, I don't know who you are in my life. I have no clue. What I was taught was this religious God that if you don't do what the church tells you to do, then you're a sinner and you're bound for hell and you're a backslider. And I said, I can't believe that anymore. I am so angry at a lot of the things that happen. You know, I need to do something different. And I heard a still small voice saying, why do you have to stay so angry at me? Let's try a different way. And I got into recovery. I was an alcohol and drug counselor therapist. That I got my degree there from Fort Wayne at St. Francis. And my dear director of the alcohol and drug program at a hospital that was associated with the Indiana Department of Corrections told me that I can help you. And I started going to therapy, 12-step meetings, and I literally had to separate myself from denominational churches so I could learn and understand who and what God was and is in my life without all the externally driven people saying this is the way you have to believe. I had to find out for myself. I had to find out the truth about myself.
And you did, and that journey is all in the book, Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. Mickey R. Craig is the author and our guest in the program. His website is authormickeycraig.com. You can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Time going by so quickly, as I knew it would. It's a fascinating story, and several things jump out that I feel we need to talk about. You relied a lot on the Life Recovery Bible, have been doing that since 1992. Talk about that and the role that played in your transformation.
Her name was Patricia, and she says, Mickey, you know, I know you have Bibles, and I know you used to be in the church and a youth pastor and pastor, but I want to give you something different. The Life Recovery Bible is a 12-step Bible. They have the 12 steps in it of Alcoholics Anonymous and ACA, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics. And in the Bible itself, it takes, you know, the Bible is stories of recovery, and that's in the book. And so I started using this Bible and reading the descriptions of self-defamation and reading stories about self-protection and reading stories about what the Bible said about recovery. And I tell you what, I've hung onto that Bible for all these years, and it helped me understand that, I have been in recovery now for 27 years as of yesterday. And the recovery is from, thank you, the recovery is from all those religious mandates, the sexual abuse, the traumas that happen. And I realized that the Bible, if you really read it for what it is, it's not a list of do's and don'ts, but it's stories of how people recover for centuries and centuries.
With us on This Week in America, Mickey Craig. Time is running out, and I want to talk about the book again, Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. It's available basically all across the country. You'll be able to order it and get information at the website authormickeycraig.com. The other main thing that I wanted to close it and talk about here is you studied under Dr. Patrick Carnes. That started as well in 1992, that 91-92 period. So influential on your life, introducing you to the principles of trauma bonds and trauma healing. Talk about that, how that the significance of those two principles in your life.
You know, God has always put the right people in my life at the right time as I seek the truth. First, I have to seek the truth about myself, and then seek the truth about what I believe. Patrick Carnes is a wonderful author and a doctor of psychology. He studied years ago and did research on the effects of sexual abuse on the lives of kids and adults. And as a result, he has written many books. And I studied under him for a week in 1992. He developed 8 different types of trauma, from trauma shame, bonding, blocking, arousal abstinence, splitting reactions, and repetitions, as well as codependency and trauma. And so I had I've lived by his principles for a long time now. I have helped others working through their own trauma using Dr. Carnes' principles, and when I wrote the book, it had such an influence on my life, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today in recovery and helping others with trauma recovery without Dr. Carnes' books and his direction and wisdom.
Got about a minute or so left in the program. I love where you are today. You're retired, but you're still helping people, and you have to have a great deal of validity as you're working with people because you've gone through what many of them are going through. It's not like somebody who just got a degree and has really no real-world experience. You just read about it. You've actually lived it. What's it like to be able to take those traumas in your past, that you were able to heal from those, and now you're able to help other people heal from theirs?
It is a rewarding experience. I never considered myself a writer. I had no idea that I was ever going to write a book. But when I was teaching the trauma principles, I returned back to the church, and I go to a wonderful small church here in Minnesota where I live now. And I really connected with our pastor, Pastor Jason Neal from the Spirit of Christ Church, it's a Lutheran church here in Minnesota. And he asked me to teach the trauma healing from a biblical perspective. I did so about 2 or 3 years ago for a year, and encouraged me to write the book. And the book's been out for a month, and I'm going to get emotional here, but I always do. But to see, I had to go through yesterday to be where I'm at today. Rick.
Exactly.
And I believe in GOD. That's good, orderly direction. And when we seek truth and we seek recovery, I can't keep what I'm not willing to give away. What that means is that God has blessed me so much in a wonderful relationship with Him today, and yes, through Jesus Christ, who is not a religious mandate anymore. So when He brings people in my life, I have to share my experience, strength, and hope with others and give that away. And people have already have written me back. I have made peace with my father. His 85th birthday was 2 weeks ago. His name is George W. Craig. They call him Bud. I call him Pops. And I brought the book down to Dad because the stories in the book were about a time in our life where there's a lot of conflict. My dad has Alzheimer's, but he read the book with his wife, and now they're sharing the book with others. And my dad's sister and relatives are coming forward. Mickey, we had no idea that you went through this, but yet look at what God has done, and it resonates and it relates with people. And I'm sitting back with tears in my eyes going, oh, wow, what a blessing, what a blessing. I am a very blessed man, Rick.
It is a very powerful and inspirational book that is touching and will continue to touch a lot of people, make a major difference in their lives. The book is called Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace by Mickey R. Craig, C-R-A-I-G. Mickey's website is authormickeycraig.com. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Mickey's website, get information on him, the book, and be able to order it as well. Mickey, congratulations on all the success that you've had in turning your life around, touching other people, and now with a book that's going to touch many, many more. Thank you for sharing your story with us on the program today.
Thank you, Rick, and God bless you.
It has been a pleasure to have you with us. Once again, the book is Breaking Away from Trauma to Healing, A Story of Grace. Mickey R. Craig, our guest. Information, of course, on the website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back after these messages.